Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name is Timster. Today I'm going to be going over part 2 in the Project FPS tutorial series. Now the next few tutorials are going to be about getting the first person shooter setup working. So this will include the gun manager, this will include the hands, this will include shooting, blood on the screen as you can see, dust on the ground, also blood when you shoot enemies, reloading animations and all of that good stuff. So we need to get all this out of the way first, then we'll get on to the enemy AI, and then after that we'll get the map and the rest of it sorted out. So without further ado, let's get started. So once you have decided on the version of Blender that you're going to use for this entire project, for me it's version 2.7a, you want to open up a new file, then go to File, Save As, and then just go to your desktop and we'll make a new folder called Project FPS. Then we'll click Project FPS, and in here we'll save this blend file as FPS setup or FPS test room. Okay, and then save as Blender file. Then what we're going to do is, we don't need this cube, so I'm going to delete it with X and delete, Shift A, add a plane, then S to scale, and make it nice and big. This here is the floor for the player to walk around on. Then before we do anything else, up the top here, Blender Game, down here, GLSL, and an animation frame rate of 60. And then we're going to add our player, so Shift A again, down here, cylinder, and we're going to use 16 vertices. By default that will be 32, so make sure you change that to 16. Okay, and then what we're going to do is move this up, and the reason we're using a cylinder for the player instead of just a cube is, let me add a cube here and show you. If we go into top view, numpad 7, and say this is our player here, and he wants to fit through a doorway where one side is here and one side is here. Now our player, if he walks straight, he can walk through the doorway. Also though, if he walks halfway into the doorway and rotates, he can still fit in the doorway without getting stuck. However, our cube here, if this was our player collision, and our player wanted to go through the same door but then decided to turn, then you can see here this would all get stuck, and he would get stuck within the door itself. So for that reason, we're going to be using a cylinder to represent our character's collisions. So the next thing I'm going to do is press S and Z to scale it on the Z axes, and we want to make it fairly tall. This will be the height of the player. Okay, so something around that. I'm going to press numpad 1 and move it fairly close to the ground. Okay, then I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to selected, Shift A, add a cube. Then I'm going to press S to scale and move it somewhere around here. This is going to be my head, so I'm going to call this head. This collision here is going to be the player collision, so I'll call it P collision. There we go. Under the object properties is where you'll name this. Then what I'm going to do is select this camera here, and I guess if you want to, we can call it eyes. Then I'm going to press Alt R to get rid of the rotation, then numpad 7 to go into top view, then R, Z, and then we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. So R, Z, 90. Then enter. You can just type it in down here otherwise, and then we're going to move it across here, and we want it in the center. So we can do Shift S, cursor to center, then Shift S, selection to cursor, and that will snap it into the middle there. Numpad 1 again to go into side view, and we'll move this up here. Then R, I think it's 90, yep, so R90, and then enter. Otherwise, if that doesn't work for you, just R to rotate, somewhere like that, and then in here we'll just type in 90. Then we'll move this fairly close to the head, so somewhere around here. Then with the camera selected, hold down Shift, select the head, and press Ctrl P, and parent to object. Okay, so now if we move the head round, the camera will move with it. Also what we want to do is increase the field of vision of the player so they can see more stuff. So to do that, we need to select our camera here, go to the camera settings, and turn the focal length down to 25. So to see what this actually does, you have to be in camera mode, numpad 0, and you can scale it in and out. The further back you scale it, the smaller the focal length. That basically makes it look like a fisheye lens, and then the further in you zoom, I guess that is a bit closer to a macro lens or whatever. So we're just going to leave this at 25, as I reckon that's a good distance. Then what we're going to do, once we've named everything, is we're going to select the head here, hold down shift and select the player. Then we're going to press Control P and parent to object. Okay, so now if we move the player, everything moves all together. Then what we're going to do is on our head here, we'll select it, then go over here to game logic, move around a bit, go to wireframe so we can see what we're doing, and then here I'm going to add a mouse and then a movement, and over here a Python script. And then down in the description below will be a link to a mouselook script, which you can go ahead and get if you want to. Otherwise, if you already have it, you can go to text, open text block and find your file. Otherwise, if you don't want to find your file, what you can also do is click in here, new, call this mouselook.py, and then we'll move this over here. What you can just do is you can copy it, Control C, and then paste it in. Okay, so once I've opened up my script, it should look something like this. Over here we have a mouselook configuration and all the different properties we can add to it. Now one we will be adding is a cap, so the player can't spin round continuously. So we'll be adding the property cap to our player, or our head, the object that has the script on it. So first of all, what we're going to do is select our script here, and then over here we're going to add a property, move this across. Now this property is going to be an integer, as it says over here. So make it an integer, and we'll call it cap with a capital C. Now you have to make sure you spell this here exactly the same as this over here, so the script works. Now the value we will be using is 90 degrees. Okay, and so now by default, I think I'll show the problem. If we add just say a monkey here, and then we parent it to the camera. So now if we press P, you can see we can spin around, but our player's up and down vision is sort of broken. So he's sort of spinning on the side instead. So to fix that, one thing we have to do is have this Y facing forwards instead of facing sideways. So to do that, we're going to press numpad 1. We're going to delete this monkey, and then the eyes or the camera here, we're going to press Alt P to unparent it, and then we'll select our cube here, which no longer has the camera parented to it. And then what we're going to do is over here choose local, and then we're going to press RZ90, and that will make so this is facing forwards like that. Now we do still have another issue, so if I add another monkey here and we parent this to the head, pretending that it is the camera, Control P and parent, and now we press P to play the game, you'll notice that the camera can bend all the way back here, but then you sort of get stuck halfway, so you're almost stuck looking at the sky the whole time, which isn't very helpful. So to fix that, what we also have to do is delete the monkey again, but we also have to change the direction here. So this y-axis, not only does it need to be facing forwards, it also needs to be facing up. So to fix that, what we'll do is press R, Y, and 90. Then enter, go back to local, and you can see the Y is up and the Z is backwards. So that's all you want, and then now, if we go back to global, select our camera, hold down shift and parent it to the head. So now to test this out, we'll add another monkey, and move this up here, hold down shift, select the head, press P to parent. Now if we press P, you can see the player is stuck, he can't look past his feet, and he also can't look that high above him. For the demo level, I don't actually need my player to look very high above me, but if you do, for example, need your player to be able to look a bit higher up, you can change its value, say to maybe 120 or something, and then he'll be able to look a little bit higher. Okay, so that is all sorted out. I'm going to keep this at 90 degrees and delete my monkey. If you haven't already, make sure that your camera is parented back to the head here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go over to blend swap, and we're just going to go to search, make sure you have an account, and then type in FPS hands. So that should pop up there, and we're just going to be using this middle one here. So click on it, and then it's made by, as you can see, Coronos. So he made these, and they're fully IK rigged and super easy to animate as well. So then what you want to do is go ahead and download it, like so. It will pop up with an agreement, and then this is basically just giving credit to the author. So somewhere in your game you're going to have a credit section, and this is basically where you'll mention him. So if you agree with it, then click yes and download. Now once you've downloaded the file, what you will want to do is open it up just with Windows Explorer, then extract all files, and we'll go to browse. Then we'll choose our folder here, Project FPS, and click OK and extract. Okay, and then now we have all our files in here. Also what we want to do is make a new folder here, and we'll just type FPS hands, and then drag all our files in. Make sure you leave FPS room just by itself, and we'll just move all of these here. Okay, so they're all in one folder. Now we can go back into Blender here, press Shift F1, and go to FPS hands, go to hands rigged, then go to object, and select the arm and the armature, and link and append, and that should pop up there. Then what we want to do is on the armature and the arms, I guess, we want to press S to scale, and we want to make them fairly small, so move them up here to the height of the player's head. Then I'm going to press numpad 7 to go into top view, then RZ90, and that's the wrong direction, so RZ minus 90, and we want the thumbs facing forwards. Then we can just select the rig and move it back, so we want it around where the head is, so somewhere near the back here, maybe somewhere like that should be fine. Then what we also want to do, maybe move the camera a bit further back, we want to select our rig here and then hold down shift and select the head and press Ctrl P and parent. So now our head should be in control of all of that, and then what we want to do is select our rig here and actually select the arms, go to the modifier tab, and currently it has a mirror modifier, so you just want to apply that so there's no problems with animations. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to edit mode, and then in here we're going to add another bone. So I'm just going to press A to deselect and then shift A, and we'll get a bone added down here. Now this I'm going to move up, and this can pretty much be anywhere. This is going to be the bone that our gun manager is parented to. So I'm just going to move that somewhere around here. S to scale, make it a little smaller, and then RY90. Oh, wrong way, RY minus 90. Okay, so it's facing forwards like that. Then we'll go back to object mode, and actually back to pose mode, and we'll get a nice pose going for our player here. So what you can do with this rig, yep, I think it's these ones, you can press numpad 7, and we can just move these around here and move them into the player's view. So just move the arms and the hands around here so the player can see them. So now we can sort of see what it's going to look like. What we might want to do is go back to object mode, maybe move them down a little bit so they're a little bit more level. Okay, so what I might do again, move the camera back a little bit, something like that, just so we can get a bit more of the player's arms in. Also what you can do is just go to pose mode and then move these bones back here, and that will push the player's arms further forward as well. We'll quickly go to texture mode, have a look what it looks like, and I think somehow that should be fine. Now one thing that is fairly important, which I didn't actually do in the demo file, is making these arms small and also making the gun small. What we basically want to do is try keep them as close to the camera as possible, but also keep them inside this collision. So when the player walks against a wall, the gun doesn't go through the wall. Then what we're going to do is press Shift A, and over here we're going to add ourselves an empty, and we're going to move this up here, S to scale, and we'll call this Gun Manager. Or I guess a better name would be Gun Spawn, like I had in the original file. Over here I'm going to select the rig again, and go over to the bones section, and then I'm going to go to pose mode, select this bone here, and then I'm going to call this gun bone. Okay, and then I'm going to go to edit mode, make sure that bone's selected in pose mode, then go back to object mode, and then I'm going to select my gun spawn, hold down shift, select the rig, control P, and parent to bone. Now all of that might have been a little bit fast, but basically what we did is we went in pose mode, we selected the bone we wanted to parent to, the specific one, then we went back to object mode, and we parented our empty here to that bone that was last selected. For us, that is this bone right here, so now if I move this around, you'll see the empty moves around as well. Okay, so now we can animate both the arms and the guns at the same time. So I'm just going to quickly press numpad 7 to go into top view here, and move the gun spawn somewhere around the middle of this bone, so it's a little bit easier to animate. Then I'm going to press numpad 1, and move it down a bit, so it's a bit more in line with the bone. Then we can select our bone, and just move it up here somewhere. Okay, so I think something like that should be good. Then the next thing we need is some guns to spawn in. So again, down in the description below will be some links to the guns that I used, at least for the demo. If we go on blend swap again, we can just go to search and search up submachine or submachine gun or whatever. And I'll be using this model right here. It's fairly game optimized and it looks pretty good. Again, it's done by Dennis H 2010. So what we're just going to do is click download. Again, it's under the same license. Basically just you give credit to the author of the blend. Again, something you should do in the credits of your game. If you agree with this license, then you can click yes, download now. Otherwise you can make your own primary weapon, or find another blend with a license you agree with. So once you've downloaded the file, as you can see here, what you want to do is open it, click extract all files again, just with the normal Windows browser, and then we'll go to browse and select our project FPS folder. Now in here, what we're actually going to do this time is click make new folder, and we'll just call this weapons, I guess. Okay, so something like that, then OK, and extract. There we go, all of that done. Then we can close those windows. Now the rest of my weapons I got from this free guns giveaway on Blender Artist by Hanzo. So you can click right here to download it. And I think, yep, that downloads instantly. I've already got a copy of it, but if you want to, there's a whole bunch of guns in there which you might like, so go ahead and get those if you want to. Otherwise, again, you can go ahead and model your own weapons if you'd rather do so. Now this file is compressed with .rar, so you will need an additional third-party software to open it up, as Windows can only open up .zip files. So the program I'm using is WinRAR, and it is free, so if you want to go ahead and get it, then do a Google search, and I think it's the first option there. So what you want to do is open it up. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of files in there. Basically, we just want to go back one and make sure that our file is selected, then do extract to, and we'll go to project FPS, and then go to weapons and click OK. Then that will finish up, and then we can go back to our desktop, go to project FPS, and then now in our weapons we should have a whole bunch of other weapons. Now this also comes with a license. I think this is under the same one as well, and it's just giving credit to the author. So again, in your credit section, make sure you give Hanzo a shout out. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is go back into our blend file here, and we'll press Shift F1 to append. Again, you can go to File and Append otherwise, and we'll go to our Project FPS folder, go to Weapons, and the ones that I used were, I think, the MAC-10 for the enemies. For the player, I used the Glock, I used the M24 we just downloaded, I used the modern hand grenade, then I also used the RB knife around the level, and the smoke grenade I used, and also the normal US knife. If there are some other guns that you want to go ahead and get them and extract them into here, but these are all the ones I need. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up our primary weapon, go to Object, and just select SMG or submachine gun. Okay, as you can see, it's nice and small. We're actually going to select this again, so click on it, and then we'll get rid of the just spinning logic here, turn all that off, and then we'll go over to the modifiers tab, and it has a subsurf and edge split. So if we can, just want to get rid of those. Edge split we can leave on. So then we're going to move this up here, and it seems like a fairly good size. Maybe we should scale it up a bit. Now I'm going to press numpad 7, so I'm happy with this size. Maybe a little bit bigger, just so it fits with the hands. And then once you're happy with the size, we'll press M and move it to layer 2. And then what I'm going to do is press Shift F1, and we'll go back to our weapons here. The next one was the Glock, so I'm going to go to Object, and I think there's 3 different versions in here. I'll just try my luck with the first version. We'll go to texture mode, and if I deselect that, nope, that's the wireframe version, so it's not the first one. Go back in here, try this one. That's a solid version, so generic 003 is the one we want. That's just a plain textured one. Okay, so this one right here comes with a magazine, which is very nice. Now before we move this to layer 2, we have to make some corrections to the model. So we're going to go into edit mode, and then I'm going to select one vertex here, press Ctrl L to select the linked vertices and move it forward like so. Now we don't want it too far forward, but we want it just to cover the front here, so somewhere like that. If we go into normal view here, you can see it a bit better. Basically, you don't want this because then you have a gap. You don't want it too far back because then you also have a gap, so you want it just in between, somewhere like that. Okay, and then also so the back lines up nicely. And then the next thing we're going to do is go back to object mode, and we're going to select this here, so our cartridge or magazine, and then we'll select all of this. Just press C for like a circle selection, click in it, then right click, and then Control L, and that will select all of this, then P and separate. So now there'll be 2 separate objects. Go back to object mode, and then here we're going to press Control Alt Shift C, then origin to geometry. Otherwise go over here, and I think it's under set origin, and then just origin to geometry. Same for this one over here. Okay, so that for both of them. Then we're going to put the magazine in the gun, so somewhere in here, I think. Something that will fit. Move it this way a bit more, so it's in the middle. You can be more accurate by pressing numpad 1 to go into the back view or front view. And then we're going to press GX, move it on the x-axis, make sure it's in the middle. Then numpad 3 to go into side view. And we can press Z to go into wireframe. Now I'm going to line this up so the bottom is lined up with the bottom of the gun, so something like that. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Then once you're happy with it, what you want to do is select this, then hold down Shift, select this, and then press Control P and parent to object. Now one more thing I remembered is for the reload animation, we actually want this clip here, this top one, to go backwards and forwards. We also want it to go backwards and forwards while shooting. So to do that, we're also going to select our gun here, go back to edit mode. We can just select edit mode down here, select one of the vertices, Control L, and then P, and separate selection. Now what I might do is also select this, so I might join this in with this one here. So I'm going to select one here, Control L, and then P, and separate selection. Then I'm going to go back into object mode, select this one, hold down Shift, select the top, and then Control J to join them together, and now that should move as one. So now that should be able to move backwards and forwards as it's shooting. Okay, so I think that is the majority of it done. We have all the moving parts. Now what we just have to do is parent this to the gun itself. So what I'm going to do is hold down Shift, select the gun, Control P, and parent. Then now if we move the gun, everything moves with it. Then the next thing I'm going to do is select all of it, including all the parts, so the magazine and the top. Then I'm going to press M and move it to layer 2. So we'll go over to layer 2. You can see we have our different guns. What we also need to do is make this smaller, so it is around about the same proportion as this other gun here. Okay, so I think that is looking a bit more realistic. Something like that. We'll move them down, and I think something like that should be fine. Now I'm going to add in my grenades and my knife, so Shift F1, we'll go back a couple, we'll just go for the modern grenade, then object, and there's a lot of different ones here. Can we? No, we can't check them. Okay, we're just going to have to go through and try find a good one. Nope, not that one. Not that one either. Let's try these bottom ones, maybe number 8. We'll go over to text view. Nope, that's a wireframe. Number 9. That is solid. Maybe number 7. There we go, number 7 works. So we'll be using number 7 here. This time the model only needs one tweak to it, and that is making the pin separate, because we want to animate that. So what I'm going to do is go tab, A to deselect, then select this ring here, Control L, and then also what I want to do is zoom in, hold down Shift, select one section of the pin, Control L, and then I want to press P and separate selection. Then I'm going to go back to object mode, and now our pin here should be separate. I'm also going to set the origin back to geometry, and the same for the grenade. Then I'm going to select my pin here, and then hold down Shift, select the grenade, press Control P, and parent. So now the grenade should move with everything else. Alright, so I think that should be a good size. Maybe we'll make it a little smaller. Then we'll select both the pin and the grenade, press M, and move it back to layer 2. So now if we go to layer 2, and we compare the size, it is a little big, so I'm going to scale it down again, move this up here, and I think maybe something around this would probably be a bit more realistic, at least proportionally. Alright, so I think that should be it. Also in this layer, I'm going to press Shift F1, and we're going to go back a couple. I'm going to select the smoke grenade, add object, get smoke grenade. Number 7 worked last time, so I'm going to try it this time. And nope, that's a wireframe. Okay, number 8. No, I think that, yep, that's also the wireframe. Okay, number 5 it is. So I'm just going to press R, X, and then 90. Oh, R, X, minus 90. And then numpad 1. Maybe just rotate it this way. Numpad 3. We'll rotate it this way, just to get it straight. And then what I'm going to do is press tab to go into edit mode. Move over here. Click one of the rings here, and then Control L to select linked vertices. Same for the pin, like last time. Then we're going to press P and separate selection. Go back to object mode. Then before we parent them, I'm going to select the pin, origin to geometry, and origin to geometry again. Then here, with the pin selected, I'm going to hold down Shift, select the grenade, and then Control P and parent. Okay, so we have our smoke grenade. Now I think we need to scale that down, so scale it down here, move it over here, so it's I think roughly the same size. Realistically speaking, smoke grenades I think are a little bigger than the explosive ones. So maybe something like that. Maybe we'll make it a little smaller like that. So back in our weapons folder, we'll go for USB knife. Go to object, US Bowie knife, and I'm just going to try the first one, see if it's the right one. And I don't think it is, so we'll try number 3. That's not the right one either, and just a normal one. Okay, that's the right one. So now what we want to do is scale it down, and there's no separate parts on this, so this should be fine. I'm going to move it over here, make it a little smaller again. Numpad 1, move it on the same level just to compare the scale. And I reckon maybe something around that might be a realistic size. Then I'm going to press Ctrl S and save. Now basically over here what we want to do is for our gun spawn is, say our player wants to pick up weapon 1, then basically to our gun spawn we say pick up weapon 1, and the player suddenly has weapon 1 and all the properties of weapon 1. If the player wants to switch to weapon 2, then we play a going down animation where the gun gets put down and then it switches, and then the player has weapon 2 with all of those properties. Now for each of these guns here we're going to have to add some logic to them. So before I do that though, on our primary weapon here we need to separate out some parts. So I'm going to press tab, I'm going to select this here, just one vertice, Control L, and that will select the linked. I think there are some edges here, so we might select those as well. Control L to select linked, and we'll go to texture mode, and I think that is it. So then we'll press P, separate, go back to object mode just by pressing tab. Then I'm going to select this, and then again origin to geometry. And what I might do on this layer is add myself a hemi so we can see what we're doing. Alright, so something like that. Then what I'm going to do over here is just call this SMG, I guess M24 cartridge or magazine. Maybe we'll just call it mag. Then also an animated part which we might want to add is this clip here, as this will be going backwards and forwards while you're shooting, also for reloading. So again, I'm going to select this, go to edit mode, select here, Control L, and then also this here, Control L as well, then P, and separate selection. Back to object mode, and select this, and that should be separate now. And then we're going to rename this to a clip, I guess, or M24 clip. There we go, and then what I'm going to do is again origin to geometry, and so now those two should be separate. I'm going to select the clip and the magazine, hold down shift and select the main weapon. Then I'm going to press Ctrl P and parent to object. So now that should all move together. Now also for each of our weapons what we need is some logic. Now this logic is basically just going to be parenting our weapon to the gun spawn. So then we can animate the gun spawn with recoil and stuff and reload animations, and then the weapon will move with the gun spawn itself. So to do that, what we're going to do is first of all we'll do it to our primary here. We need an always sensor, and then we need a parent. And it's always going to parent to our gun spawn. So type in gun spawn here, and then click that. Then we'll minimize all of those. We also, before we go any further, have to make sure that it's all set to no collision. Otherwise we get some weird stuff with the player movement, as this will be either dynamic or character. So make sure it's all on no collision, including all the clips, all the magazines and stuff as well. Okay, so no collision for the grenades, for the smoke grenades, for the pin in the smoke grenade, and for the knife. Okay, so all of those done. So that is just basic, but then say our player wants to switch to another weapon, then this is going to have to be removed. So an easy way to do that is send it a message saying remove or end M24, and then this will die or get deleted out of the scene. So in here what we're going to do is add in a message, and this is going to be end M24. Then here we'll add an and then over here we will now remove the parent, so it's not constantly parented. So here we'll just go remove parent, and then over here we're gonna also add an end object, so it just gets deleted. Okay, and I think that is the only logic we need so far. So also what I'm going to do here is add it to this. Make sure you don't add it to this because it doesn't have anything parented to it. You want to add it to the main body that controls everything. So I might just call this Glock just by itself. Then I should probably give all of this some proper names. I'll just call this top. And then down here, Glock mag. We should have actually done this when we were adding them in. Grenade, and then grenade pin. Okay, and then the smoke. So smoke. Well, I just guess we can just call it S grenade for smoke grenade, and then the pin as well. So S grenade pin, and then over here we'll just call this knife, as US Bowie knife is a little long. I think we've renamed everything else. I'll just call this M24 instead of SMG. But apart from that, I think that should be it. Okay, so once we have that logic on the primary, we'll move it over to the secondary. Make sure you have the main body selected when you do this. Then add an always, add a parent, and over here we're going to again select the gun spawn. Then over here we're going to add ourselves a message. It's going to be end Glock. We'll minimize all of these so they're not using up too much space. Then an and over here we're going to add ourselves another parent, except this time it's going to be remove. Remove, and then this here will be a end object. Okay, so close all of those. Next, over here, always parent. And then over here, gun spawn. So just type in gun and then select the option, message, and end grenade. Then add an and controller here. Join that up, and then over here we'll add a parent and set parent gun spawn. Then over here, oh no, we don't want to set the parent, we want to remove it. Okay, and then we're also going to end the object. Alright, so move those. Then here we're going to add an always, then a parent, again, gun spawn. Nice and repetitive. Great stuff for tutorials. Anyway, and smoke, we're just going to call it smoke. Actually, smoke would be a better name instead of S grenade. So I'm going to call this smoke pin as well. Okay. So end smoke, and controller, and here, minimize those. Then over here, add a parent, join the two, remove parent, and an edit object, and end object. Okay, last one, the knife. Not end object, oh, we'll save that for later. Parent, and we'll move that up. Okay, gun spawn. There we go, message and knife, and then another and controller. Then we'll remove the parent, so another parent here, and then change this to remove. Maybe we'll minimize that, move it up. Okay, and this one will be end. Alright, so hopefully that wasn't too tedious to watch. Anyway, we have all our logic set up, so when these get spawned in, they'll instantly get parented to our gun spawn, which means then they'll move with it. Now just before I finish the tutorial, there is one problem, and that is when our guns or weapons spawn in and the player decides to move, then the gun can get spawned in one frame, the player has already moved in the next frame, and then the weapon sort of gets half parented, so it's almost sticking out beside the player's hands, and it sort of looks strange. So to fix that, we're actually going to get into our first piece of Python code. Now this is easy because all we need to do is on each one add a Python script here. So I'm just going to quickly do that for all of these. Make sure you're doing it for the main body. Again, You don't want to be doing it to, say, the magazine or something, and then it doesn't work properly for the rest of it. So just make sure you add a Python controller for all of these. And then over here, we're going to make a new script. I'm just going to call this snap, so snaps to the gun spawn. Here I'm going to type in import BGE to import Blender Game Engine, and just the basic cont is equal to bge.logic.getCurrentController. So cont, we're just assigning it to the current controller. Then also what we want is scene, and that is equal to bge.logic, again, get current, and then scene, then closing brackets at the end, and then one more, and that is own, is equal to cont, so this thing up here, dot owner. So basically now we can just type in own instead of having to type in cont.owner all the time. This right here is not needed, but it's just a small shortcut to make our life easier. Okay, anyway, next thing we need to do is we need to define the gun spawn. So I'm going to type in gun spawn, and because that's on a different scene in our script here, we have to define it. So to do that, I'm going to do gun spawn, and actually we can't have two words, we only can have one. So in your properties or anything you assign, it all has to be one word. So if you need a space, just use an underscore. Alright, so gun spawn is equal to scene.objects. So we're using scene, and then the objects within it. And this keyboard thing's going nuts. Anyway, we'll do a square bracket, and then a quotation mark. And then what we're going to do is type in the name. So if we go over here, go to select our gun spawn, and that's just called gun spawn with a space. So we need the exact name so it can reference it. So gun spawn like that, then a closing quotation mark and a closing square bracket. Okay, so now we've defined our gun spawn in the scene objects, which is this one right here. The next thing that we need to do is get the world position of it. So just to make our lives easier again, I'm just going to slap world position at the end of it. So scene.objects gun spawn dot, so another full stop, and then I'm just going to type in world in lowercase and then a capital P for position. So gun spawn is equal to scene.objects, then the object gun spawn and its world position. And position isn't spelt right. Okay, make sure you spell it right. So P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N. Alright, so we have that sorted out. Then we want the position of the weapon. So to do that, we're going to type in, I guess, self position. So self and then pos for its own position. That's going to be equal to own.world position. Now this is a little easier because this is in the same scene, and since it's running from the same controller, we can just use own here and world position. Whereas this isn't run by the same object that's running the script, so we just have to reference it with the scene. And then now in this part we'll be assigning, I can't even write properly today, assigning world position. So this next line will be assigning the weapon to the world position of the gun spawn. So to do that, we're just going to type in self underscore pos, like we have right here, and then we're going to do is equal to, and we'll assign it to gun spawn, except with an underscore. So basically what we're doing here, we are assigning the own world position to the gun spawn world position. So now when we spawn it in, it will snap instantly to our gun spawn here, and that means that it will also get parented instantly, and then if your player is turning while he changes weapons, the gun will stay where the gun spawn is. So hopefully all that explaining wasn't too boring. Anyway, what we're going to do here is go to layer 2, select our object here, and then in the Python controllers here, we'll just select snap for all of them. So snap over here, then also here we're going to add snap. Again, make sure you're doing it to the main bodies, and snap over here. However, also one more thing we need to assign is the rotation of our gun spawn here. So to fix that, what we're also going to do here is we're going to type in self underscore rot for rotation, and then is equal to own.world orientation. Then also under the gun spawn, now for the rotation, we may as well just copy and paste. So I'm going to select all of this, Control C, Control V to paste, and then I'll just put underscore rot for rotation. And then over here we're going to change it to world orientation. Okay, world orientation, like so. Then we're going to also assign the world position, and then in here we're going to assign rotation. So in here we're going to type in self underscore rot is equal to gun underscore spawn underscore rot. So now that should all work like that. That should work fine. And just as a quick test, I'm going to select my gun spawn, and I'm going to select my keyboard, spacebar, edit object, and we're just going to go ahead and add the M24. Okay, so just P and space, and as you can see we're moving, but it was all set out correctly. So as you can see, we have the gun parented. It is in the wrong direction. What we might do is, I think it's a little squashed as well. So we'll press Control A, apply scale for everything if we can. Not for the rig, I think that mucks it up a little bit. Then also for the guns here, we need to apply the scale for the main bodies, the ones we're spawning in. Okay. And I think the rotation, I will try it now. Like so. No, it's still spawning in sideways. But you can see the scaling issue is now fixed. So to fix the rotation, I'm going to try and press Control A, apply rotation. So now we'll press P, see if that fixed it, and there we go, ta-da, it's working, yay. So now we need to do that for all the other weapons, or all the other weapon bodies. So Control A, apply rotation, and apply rotation. Alright, so now if we say select a Glock instead, press P, space, there we go, we have our pistol. So there we go guys, that is I guess part 2. Part 1 was just planning, so part 2 of the Project FPS tutorial series done. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment or share, and subscribe for more videos. Next week we'll be continuing with this, getting some more stuff working and starting to get the animations going. So anyway, again, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, have an awesome week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.